What if I told you that movies were not entirely fake and the news was not entirely real? What if I told you that there are clues about how the Matrix operates presented to you every day, and that these clues were disguised as fiction? Come with me. Let's explore Poltergeist 3.
What is up, alien army? I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. And on this channel, we discuss everything out of this world. So today's topic, we are bringing it back with another occult symbolism series. One of my personal favorite movies. It's the movie Poltergeist 3. In my opinion, the best one out of this series of Poltergeist. I'm just saying, they say the sequel is never as good as the first one, but I thought the first one was kind of boring, and the second one was just... what the fuck was that? Let's explore the final movie in the Poltergeist Trinity. In the Poltergeist series, we do know that we have our protagonist, the main character, who is Carol Ann. The name Carol comes from English, and it means joyful song. The word Ann comes from Hebrew, and it means he has favored me. The he meaning God. Does this name indicate that Carol Ann is the chosen one? It might be so, as the series indicates, that she was born in that house, meaning the OG Poltergeist house that was built above the cemetery. To be born means to be birthed, aka like a ship has a berth, as to which it docks upon entering port. This goes back to maritime law, which is still very much prevalent in the way law is conducted in the 3D realm today. When a baby is birthed, they are entering via the portal to the third dimensional physical realm. In most cases, upon entry, much like a ship under maritime law, the physical vessel is analyzed by a doctor. Ship, dock.
Hello, hello.
Much like a ship is inspected at the dock when it arrives at the port.
Do you see what I see?
We already see a similarity.
But wait, there's more.
The baby is evaluated and in essence signs a blood bond, which binds them to the law of the third dimensional realm. How does this happen before an infant can even read or write? You might be wondering that to yourself. Well,
Glad you fucking asked.
remember that maritime law? A ship must be officially registered in order to travel from port to port if it wants to dock on dry land. And that official registration is called a certificate. What else receives a certificate at a birth? Pretty much everyone who resides in the third dimensional humanoid vessel now.
What the fuck does all this have to do with Carol Ann from Poltergeist?
Since she was born in that house, Cain and his crew have an affinity to her. Because her soul entered her physical vessel in that port, and the physical vessels of the deceased have already been buried under that house, we now see a two-way street forming. A portal. The death, the birth, the cycle. We recognize the balance of the poles with the opposing aspects of life and death. Carol Ann's vessel came into life there. Cain and his followers are deceased and are seeking eternal life by attempting to utilize her life force energy, her innocence. As Tangina in the movie says, innocence is the only given in life. All else is fought for. Reverend Henry Cain, aka the Beast, He's our antagonist. The name Henry comes from German, meaning ruler of the house. Cain comes from Celtic, meaning little warrior, comes from Japanese, meaning golden, and comes from Hawaiian, meaning man. What about Cain, as in Cain and Abel? You know, from the Bible. This Cain is whom I personally suspect Poltergeist Cain is named after.
But who the fuck knows?
Cain in the Bible is purportedly the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, whose offering to God was rejected, whilst his brother Abel's offering was accepted. Cain's story is known as being the first murder in the Bible, and in Poltergeist, the cult leader Henry Cain was said to have murdered his own followers in order to siphon their life force energy. In this case, Cain in Poltergeist may be likened to a demon who siphons human currency for his own benefit. Tangina is the one who refers to him as the Beast, a moniker which devil or Satan is also referred to as. Tangina in Poltergeist is the classic psychic medium who wears a magical amulet to protect her from malicious entities. We have a lot of spiritual symbolism in this storyline. Carol Ann, the innocent child, who has not been yet corrupted by the third dimensional realm. She still has her innocence intact, leaving her life force energy high vibrational. And Cain, the Beast, from another dimension, wants to utilize her for his own advantage, harvesting human currency, if you will. In Poltergeist 3, Carol Ann is seen from the beginning with a red toy device, which helps her to spell. We know that words are spells.
Conjure words.
And we know that spelling is a mystical art form, indicating that Carol Ann is bestowed with some otherworldly instincts. She wears a red PJ onesie when the supernatural events start occurring. In most of the movie, she's recognized for her appearance in red. The color red is associated with the root chakra, the base of the humanoid vessel experience, and oftentimes is associated with the flames of hell and the devil. It's no surprise then that when the supernatural events rev up in the story, that her character is depicted in the color red. The lower frequency forces are metaphorically attempting to drag her down into fear. Carol Ann's mystical abilities are present in the storyline from the beginning of the movie. She attends a special school for gifted children with emotional problems, where one of the professors is especially intrigued by her energy. Dr. Seaton, remember Doctor? Even insinuates to colleagues that Carol Ann telepathically instructed one of them to break the two-way mirror, that they were observing her from behind with the coffee mug. Do we even need to get into the two-way mirror symbolism or the broken mirror symbolism? The difference betwixt Poltergeist 3 and its two predecessors is that they're set in houses in California, whilst the third installment is set in a multi-use skyscraper in Chicago. Carol Ann is purportedly sent to live with her aunt and uncle because of the previous disturbances she experienced, notably in the first two movies. The John Hancock Center. We have a lot to say about the symbolism of this architectural masterpiece. The John Hancock Center is a large black obelisk. We know that the obelisk is a phallic symbol of masculine conscious mind energy in the third dimensional plane. And we know that black cubes and obelisks are prevalent in many common places and in pop culture. We're not going to elaborate on this here, but
if you know, you know.
In the poster for Poltergeist 3, we also see that the John Hancock Center is laced with lightning. What does this remind you of? Could it be the Tower card in the tarot? metaphorical architecture. The John Hancock Center in this movie is chock full of mirrors and floor-to-ceiling windows. Both are reflective surfaces, indicating the two-way portal that we touched on before. Mirrors are a hot point in Poltergeist 3 because their symbolism is everywhere. From the scene with Dr. Seaton where the mirror breaks, to the mirrors by the elevator shaft breaking on every floor inside the John Hancock Center. As well as the mirrors breaking, we note that the building is unusually cold and that ice has built up inside the air ducts. When a ghost is nearby, the air is alleged to become more chilly, certain sources state. Ironically enough, when Carol Ann and crew step out of the building, they start removing their bundled up layers of clothing. And one of them even remarks, "It's hotter than hell out here," pointing out that the inside of the John Hancock Center is drastically cooler. And they're in Chicago, and it's wintertime. Portals. From the beginning of the movie, we see that Carol Ann has a fascination with the windows, reflective objects like in the first movie, where she had been preoccupied with the TV. She puts her hands on the TV in the first film and states the famous line,
They're here.
in Poltergeist 3, Carol Ann puts her hands on the window, indicating that reflective objects are going to be significant in a similar fashion in this movie. Throughout the film, we also notice that water and ice seem to change inexplicably from one to the other, indicating the malleable nature, the subconscious mind, water element, and how sometimes it can play tricks and projects illusions into the reality of the 3D realm. Reflective objects such as pools of water, mirrors, TV screens, and even phone screens are sometimes likened to portals. Much like the TV was a portal used to communicate with the other side in the first movie. Poltergeist 3 shows instances of happenings inside the mirror's reflection, but it is not necessarily occurring in that moment in their real world. In fact, the malfunction with the elevator in the beginning of the film occurs, and that's when we see that all of the mirrors along that elevator shaft start cracking, meaning that the veil betwixt worlds is thinning. How many times have I said John Hancock Center? If you're counting, take a shot or a puff or whatever the fuck you're doing.
But here we go again.
The John Hancock Center, the building where Poltergeist 3 is set, is named for one of the founding fathers of the United States, John Hancock. His name is most notably associated in present day with being a slang term for signature. Do you recall just a bit ago when we mentioned babies being born and immediately being contracted into bond before they can even read or write? Well, how does one obtain a John Hancock, a signature from someone of this nature?
A blood bond.
That's right, friends.
Buckle the fuck up.
A sign, nature, signature that they arrived in portal via the birth canal. What is also a canal? It's a waterway. In this case called a Guthrie card or a heel prick test, a few drops of blood are obtained from the baby's foot. It's alleged that this is conducted to check oxygen levels.
See with the eye, know what's really going on.
Then a certificate of a live birth is awarded in the baby's given name to identify it, much like the ships in port that we discussed earlier. This all goes back to Carol Ann being born, entering port in the house in California, and now residing in the John Hancock Center building. John Hancock being famous for the OG signature, which is revered in the 3D realm as a bind or contract. Kane is still coming after her because he is bonded by that bind to her energy for the reasons we mentioned before. I to get into so many details with seeing symbolism in everyone, everything, everywhere, every time. If I were to go into all of them, this video would be way too long. Now, I will present to you a mini slideshow indicating other symbolism that I peeped in this motherfucking amazing masterpiece of a movie. Did you notice any interesting tidbits? Did you find other things? Remember, friends,
Let every eye negotiate for itself and trust no agent.
most of us know that there are simply two emotional vibrations which may encompass all other types of feelings. These two emotional vibrations are love and fear. Other feeling states may be categorized as one or the other.
Again with the motherfucking polls.
Poltergeist 3 indicates these emotional states as well. In the scene where Carol Ann appears to be calling for her aunt and uncle to help pull her out from the other side of her bedroom door, her aunt rushes to save Carol Ann. And then we see that this is not Carol Ann at all. It's an imposter. It's Kane. When Psychic Tangina mentions this, Carol Ann's aunt is surprised, which in turn leaves Tangina surprised. Tangina had picked up intuitively that it was Kane and not Carol Ann, whilst Carol Ann's own aunt didn't spot the difference. Because, as indicated earlier in the movie, it appears as though Carol Ann's aunt has no connection to her at all. This is a prime example of the fear-based delusion, hence believing pseudo-Carol Ann seeming real to those who do not operate with said individual on the plane of love.
It's easy to be fooled.
Tangina in the Poltergeist films seems to have a lot in common with Carol Ann due to their psychic gifts. Therefore, she was able to feel the real Carol Ann's energy, or lack thereof, in order to recognize that it was Kane masquerading as her. Towards the end of the movie, Carol Ann's aunt and uncle understand the concept of outside in, both physically and metaphorically conquering the beast. We see them climb into the window washing cart on the exoskeleton of the building in order to gain access to the inside of Carol Ann's room, which they were unable to enter before due to all the disturbances taking place.
Poltergeist activity and shit.
The concept of outside in this context, shows that now Carol Ann's aunt and uncle do indeed finally grasp the concept of operating from a different perspective. A higher perspective, taking into consideration that they're traversing along a skyscraper and overcoming their own fears, metaphorically represented by the height of the building, in order to operate through love to rescue Carol Ann. Outside in, also in essence, is that they must break through the window from the outside of the skyscraper, and this allows us to see a metaphorical example of that Tower Tarot card. The outside ego illusion must be shattered in order to return to the inner realm, love.
Sometimes it can be a little chaotic, but you gotta break through somehow.
A quote from Tangina is even utilized here to state the obvious. She says, You can't take them as long as there's someone here that loves them. We may take this literally or figuratively. In the figurative sense,
From a metaphorical standpoint,
fear cannot hold one captive as long as there is love in the equation. We know that love and fear energy are the same thing.
different degree.
Love is always in the equation, even when there is the illusion of fear which seems to be present. This concept can be utilized inside one's own aspects of their monkey mind as well. Face the fear, gaze into the situation from a different perspective, a heightened perspective, break through the illusory barrier that appeared to be a hindrance, and infiltrate the shit out of the fear with the energy of love. That is my rendition of symbolism that I saw in the movie Poltergeist 3. That is what I have for you today. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful stroll. Gracias, Luca. I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. We will chit-chat again soon.